first things first, I will outline what we're going to talk about today. If I can change my page, that would be a good start. Yes. So I'll begin with a quick recap. Many of you will be familiar with GWO, others may not. So I'll just provide a very quick overview of who we are and what we do. I'll then go into the key findings of the annual report. The following point will be focus on the top 10 training providers, and then a little look into the headlines around how the global network of training providers is growing. You'll see in your handouts, there are two handouts. One is a copy of this presentation and the other is a copy of the annual report. So please feel free to refer to that while we're doing this. So for those of you who aren't familiar with GWO, we're a non-profit body. We're founded by wind turbine manufacturers and owners. Those are the companies that you see on the screen. Our members strive for an injury-free work environment in the wind turbine industry, setting common international standards for safety training and emergency procedures. The first version of our first standard, the Basic Safety Training Standard, was launched in 2012. The members did this in response to the demand for a recognizable standard in the wind turbine industry. 5 years later, the Basic Technical Training Standard was launched, and last year in 2018, two new standards, the Enhanced First Aid and Advanced Rescue Training, were added to our portfolio. And this year, a new training standard for blade repair technicians is going to be launched very shortly, and demonstrated and presented at the Wind Europe event in Bilbao that I referred to at the beginning. So if that's the area that you're interested in, then do come and see us there. Just a quick reminder of what GWO standards are. The training standards themselves consist of modules. We have a collection of recommended core safety modules. These are the training modules that our members recommend all of their employees or anybody who's going to work on site within one of their operations where they are the prime duty holder. Those 4 modules, first aid, manual handling, fire awareness, working at heights, are recommended as a standard set of skills. Then increasingly, the recommended core technical modules of the Basic Technical Training Standard are expected by employers as well. In the third column, you'll see these optional task-specific modules, which include those 2 new training standards I mentioned, Advanced Rescue and Enhanced First Aid, and the Blade Repair Standard, which is launching this year, and then also Sea Survival, which is a fairly straightforward module to explain. It's optional and task specific because it's not required for anybody who's not going to be working offshore. Finally is the BTT installation module. That's an additional module to the BTT package, and this was announced early this week and is ready for implementation by training providers who are certified to deliver the BTT standard. Just going to pause for a moment. If anybody is having any concerns with audio or anything like that, then please let me know. Okay, so the annual report itself, the key findings, we look at 2 key metrics, which is the number of people who have a valid GWO record and the number of certificates that are uploaded. So as you can see, over the course of 12 months from the end of 2017 to the end of 2018, there was very fast growth. In total, across the 12 months, that's a 65% increase in the number of people with a valid record. And the number of certificates uploaded increased by 24.1%. Looking into the modules themselves, this graphic demonstrates the seasonality of the basic safety training modules, the working at height, fire awareness, manual handling, first aid, and sea survival, in that order from top to bottom on your screen. You'll see quarter by quarter there are fluctuations in the numbers of training that are taken, and this broadly follows the weather patterns in the Northern Hemisphere, where the majority of wind turbine installation and service activity is taking place. So the busiest period is normally at the cusp of Q1 and Q2, and that trend has now repeated itself for 2 years. And you can see just at the edge of Q1 and Q2 for 2 years in a row, that number has peaked, approaching 12,000 records at the maximum. I believe that figure is 12,000 records on a period of 3 weeks, but I might have to double check those numbers there, because it doesn't necessarily explain in detail because of the intervals there between quarters. So if you do have any sort of more specific questions about the details month by month, week by week, then you can send me your questions. Again, the basic technical training standard. This is just the 3 modules, and it was launched more recently. The obvious trend to look at here is that these modules have been taken on an increasing basis, and there hasn't been any particular seasonality in the take-up. We've removed merit records from this. Those of you who are not familiar with how merit works, that's essentially a system that's designed to award a GWO standard certificate to an individual who has similar training that's been merited against the GWO standard. Our first half 2018 report that you can also find in our statistics pages on our website showed you how many records there were in this area up to June 30th, 2018. We've stripped those away to look purely at the raw numbers of individuals who are taking these modules from scratch, to show you where that growth is coming from. And there was obviously a slight dip in the final quarter of 2018, and we'll be interested to see how this progresses over the next 12 months. There are certainly a great many more training providers who are certified to deliver BTT now. I think there's 43, perhaps a couple more since we last collected data. So the availability of basic technical training is increasing, and employers are hopefully going to take advantage of that. So training providers, the companies who are delivering the training. As you can see, we've got 2 lists here. On the left is the records that were uploaded by training providers for BST modules, and on the right is BTT modules. So obviously the numbers are quite different, but you can see which companies have performed the most and have delivered the most modules over the last 12 months. And this time in the report on pages 14 and 15 on the inside back cover, you can see a full list of every single training provider in the world over the last 2.5 years or so that Winder has been operating. And that's a useful index to show you which areas have grown, which companies have delivered precisely how many modules and how many uploads they've carried out to Winder. So that's something new that we've added this year. It was something that was asked for by training providers. They wanted a bit more transparency. So again, if you've got any more sort of inquiries about information you think we could share that would be useful to you, then please let me know and we'll see if we can make it happen. Moving on, we're still focusing on training providers because the other key story that GWO has to tell is one of growth in terms of the global network. Here you have a collection of pins, white ones and green ones. These are GWO certified sites. The green ones are training sites that were certified in 2018. The white ones were already certified. So you can see there's some very, very busy clusters in Northern Europe, but increasingly new sites that are being added outside of Europe. And that's a particularly positive story that we're proud of. And we hope that the industry continues to bring GWO standards and We hope that employers, our members, continue to show that they expect GWO as a standard training wherever they operate in the world. With that kind of commitment, we hope that training providers themselves are then committed to invest in facilities that meet those standards. So a little bit more detail on the next slide talks about how the global network has grown. So there was a 31% change in 2018, an additional 68 sites were certified. In Europe, that was an additional 39. In the Americas, that was 13. In Asia Pacific, 14, and in Africa, 2. A quick snapshot of some of the fastest growing countries, the bottom right table on your screen. The 4 countries here have shown particularly rapid growth, and they're obviously very large countries with potential, wind capacity that's almost off the charts in certain cases, and we expect big things from. And that's already beginning to show. Mexico practically actually did more than double the number of uploads to Winder in 2018 that it had in 2017. Turkey almost did so. China doubled the number, and Brazil increased the number of uploads to Winder by almost 5 times. So we're particularly excited to see how those countries progress. A lot of the new training providers in China were only certified towards the end of 2018, so we expect those training facilities to deliver a lot more certificates over the course of the next 12 months. So I'm coming to the end of the presentation now. I just want to emphasize again why we're all here at the end of the day. I touched upon it in terms of the growth of the global network, but I think it's worth reminding you that our members are employers. They are the ones who expect a GWO standard training from not only their directly employed workforce, but their contractors too. And here you have 3 members of the steering committee leadership at GWO, and their statements are representative of the rest of the membership. There's a lot of commitment behind the standards in most countries in the world, in every country that these guys operate. And the message from our chairman today, Eloy Harakui, was that while there are almost 75,000 people with a GWO standard certificate, that still represents actually a fraction of the global workforce. And our commitment is to see that global workforce work towards a standard that the whole industry can recognize and that delivers a good baseline of competence for workers going forwards.